A faint mark on a forgotten map lured them into the Saltoro, where glaciers hid their paths and storms guarded a summit few had ever seen.
It's 2:20 a.m. I'm still buried in the Himalayan Club Journals, century-old field notes from the Himalayas. It's like diving deep into the documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s. The journals cover everything, from indigenous wisdom, cultural myths, to epic expeditions and groundbreaking discoveries. These forgotten stories are brought to life by synthetic voices in the Himalayan Journals podcast. Subscribe, zone out, binge, and pass it to a fellow mountain junkie.
How far could a casual glance at a map take an idea, and how close could it bring a small party to a 25,400-foot summit in foul weather? In 1935, James Waller noticed Peak 36 on the Survey of India quarter-inch map 52A, a triangulated point in the Saltoro range above the Siachen. Photographs in the Workman's Book and some advice about the area from Dr. Longstaff suggested that the mountain might yield to a careful approach. With little information to rely on, reconnaissance came first. The party assembled at Srinagar at the end of April. Stores from England lagged, so the group split. Waller and John Hunt moved ahead with two Darjeeling porters, Tandrup and Palton, men proven at high altitude. The rest followed soon after. 12 days brought both parties to Kapalu on the Shock, then to Dansam at the meeting of the Kondus and Saltoro valleys. On the 14th of May, a timely message allowed Karslaw and Brotherhood to join the initial forays. A stroke that shaped the route that followed, the work divided neatly. Waller and Tandrup explored the Sherpa Gang and its feeders. Hunt and Palton went up the Bilafon Glacier to the Bilafon La, the Saltoro Pass long known to local people and visited by travelers and surveyors since the 19th century. Karslaw and Brotherhood extended the survey of Sherpa Gang side glaciers. When they regrouped at Dansam, luck had opened a door. Waller had found that a tributary of the Sherpa Gang small on the map bent sharply near its snout and ran north to south beneath the southeast ridge of Peak 36. It hid its true scale and direction, yet it led towards the mountain. Weather tested them at once. Of 6 days, only one had been fine. Still, on 23rd May, they moved up the Kondus Valley, fought to hire men at Corcondus, and on the 24th pitched Camp 1 at the snout of the Leika Glacier, Waller's line of approach. The coolies pressed for higher wages. Delays followed. On the 27th, only half were fit enough for the Leika coal. A gale pinned them on the ridge. Waller and Karslaw fixed a rope through a cornice to the upper Leika, but deep new snow made the 800-foot descent treacherous. The party paid off the coolies, kept 8 men, and faced a blizzard. The next days nearly broke the expedition. Loads were lowered in a storm over broken slopes, outcrops, and changes of gradient. Cooking failed for 36 hours. 2 men suffered snow blindness. Waller forced a way to the coal and brought back the porters and cookers. By the 4th day, they had shifted nearly all loads to Camp 3A at the foot of the descent. Yet the cost convinced them that this line must change. Hunt skied a long reconnaissance to the head of the Leika and saw a possible start onto the east face from a basin on what they called the Peak 36 Glacier. Misled by the unseen drop toward the Bilafon side, he believed it connected to the Bilafon Plateau. Brotherhood set off on the 2nd of June to adjust the line of communications and fetch fuel, while base camp rose under the southeast ridge. Avalanches broke hopes on the ridge above base. The ice cliffs threatened both flanks of a small col. Attempts were halted by weather. Waller, and Hunt then found a descent from a farther ridge by the track of a gigantic avalanche down to the Peak 36 Glacier. A low ice plateau about 1,000 feet above the glacier seemed to offer a route to the east face. Meanwhile, Carr's law proved there was no practical link to the Billafond law from that side. Brotherhood reached the Billafond wall but found no safe descent for coolies. Loads tossed down toward them vanished into a bergschrund. Fuel worries grew. On 14th June, a fine morning tempted action. They kept 3 selected coolies and moved up, but a fresh blizzard shut them in for 2 days at Camp 4. On the 17th, they forced a track to the plateau and pitched Camp 5 at about 20,000 feet. Next day, steep snow over ice, set at angles steeper than familiar alpine faces, yielded slowly. With weather improved, confidence grew, but their heights were wrong. An aneroid had failed at 16,000 feet, and the hypsometer lacked its thermometer. Believing Camp 5 stood at 21,000 feet, they planned to rush the top from a high Camp 6, cutting a 7th camp. On the 19th of June, Brotherhood and Hunt remade the track. Twice wind slabs broke loose. Once both were carried but stopped on the edge of a drop by a well-placed axe. Massive crevasses forced detours. They placed Camp 6 below a huge transverse crevasse and sent the carriers down. The night bit hard. In the morning, they climbed again. The slopes eased, but altitude pressed. They reached the southeast ridge near 1 o'clock. The summit and a prominent gendarme stood half a mile away along the crest. Brown mists blew up from the south. They estimated they were within about 600 feet vertically, but the hour, the wind, and the truth about their lower camp height decided the matter. They turned back. The descent began at 5 in the evening, loads heavy and light, fading fast. A crevasse swallowed Hunt to the elbows. Voices from Camp 5 pulled them over the last steep slope in darkness and snow. Next day, they abandoned more stores, crossed Peak 36 Col and near Whiteout, and reached base through the worst storm yet. On 23rd and 24th June, they withdrew down the glacier while the gale still raged above. Their verdict was clear. Waller's Leika approach from the Saltoro was shorter and sound if the col were made safe for coolies. The east face route, via the plateau above Peak 36 Glacier, was the best line to the top. The southeast ridge remained a poor second. Given time and good weather, success would go to the next party. In foul conditions with scant details and constant storms, they had prepared the way.